So anyway, the debate. Let's jump into coverage of the debate because, that's what everybody wants, honestly. And, just to repeat what I said when we started the stream, which is they had a mini January 6th while the debates were going on in Mexico. Really? The Latin American leftists are not like American leftists. When you do a January 6th on a Latin American leftist, they tend to take it more seriously because of the whole death camps for leftists that have happened all over Latin America. Latin American leftists are a little bit meaner. They're not like American leftists who are doing it as a hobby. They're doing it because they're fighting for power and they realize their lives are at stake. It's a little bit different. In America, everybody's doing it as a hobby because they think it's they want to post, right? A little bit different in Latin America. I do think that American leftism it's almost a cliche at this point to make fun of American leftism because you're really just making fun of yourself when you do that. All right. Also, Taylor Swift endorsed Kamala Harris after the debate. I think the Harris campaign is trying to grab the momentum back. And my feeling now is Kamala Harris is the American Macron. And if you're a leftist, obviously, listen, I don't want the fascists to win, but, she's going to come in power and her main goal will be to destroy you, not the fascists. Just so you understand. That's kind of my sense of who Kamala Harris is. So, we don't really have a dog in this fight. I mean, we do. We don't want the fascists to win, but obviously, the neoliberals are not going to defeat fascism. They're going to keep it around. All right, let's take a look at what the libs said about the debate.
Lindsay Davis and David Muir wrapping this presidential debate between former President Donald Trump and Vice President of the United States, Kamala Harris. You could not have two more different candidates with two more different approaches to the task at hand here. I
think the real winner is neoconservatism because, neoconservatism doesn't have any support in the American population, but neoconservatives went from controlling the Republican Party to controlling the Democrat Party. Honestly, pretty impressive. Liberals think people are voting based on what Taylor Swift says. As a society, we are deeply cooked. I think the liberals have a point. I think Taylor Swift endorsing Kamala Harris is going to be persuasive to some people. I think you don't know enough people if you don't think that's the case. There are a lot of people out there that are so wealthy and privileged that all they do are seek comfortable feeling and gentle pleasure. I don't, maybe if you're not in that tier of privilege, you probably don't see those people as much, but there are millions and millions of Americans who are just involved in consumption. Go to Disney World, you will see a lot of these people. Go to a Taylor Swift concert, you will see a lot of these people. They rotate between their Disney moms and the Taylor Swift mom is a fucking circle. When she posted a register to vote link, it generated 35,000 new registrations. Yeah, that's crazy. Jake Sullivan's wife won a Democrat primary in Maine. I thought it was in New Hampshire. And did she win? Or maybe it was in Maine. Was it in Maine? What? I thought it was why did I think it was New Hampshire? Up first, Kamala Smith defeated Speaker Val Longhurst, who was in office since 2004, part of the leadership for over a decade. This victory will represent a huge change in how Dover works. Yeah, actually, the left in Delaware is surprisingly, honestly, why not? There's 5 people. Nice. Look at all these Working Families Party victories. Nice. Maggie Goodlander wins the New Hampshire 2nd Dem primary. This is basically centrist on centrist, right? Yeah, see, it was New Hampshire, as I said. I think the reason I've seen some, Elizabeth Warren types saying that she was the better choice, but I don't think that we had a dog in this fight. Because she's probably a mega Zionist. So, yeah. Did you see the TYT poll on their YouTube community page? They asked, should American citizens pay for undocumented detainees gender reassignment surgeries? Also, chat, look what Feed Me Don't Kill Me made. What do you guys think? Did it? I said open in browser. Okay, there it is. This is a new emote, DSA 7. Obviously, it's not intended to be this big, but you get the point. Making a bunch of Romeo emotes. Romeo will be my mascot for life. A bunch of hoggers were harping on that gender reassignment surgery on Reddit. First of all, it was like they're one or something. Like, what is this story even? My reaction to TYT is that TYT is they see an opportunity to grift money because they're failing, because their type of politics is just doesn't have a constituency. So like they're just dying. So they're grifting because that's what you do when you're dying out. All right, let's watch the coverage. Let's see the libs. Let's see the lib coverage of the debate. You know, like let's see how it goes.
Television executive once told me that everything you need to know about a live event on television, you can tell with the sound off.
Mexico had its own version of January. Could you guys get me some coverage of that? Because I don't have anything up on my deck. My dad linked me Jink on Lex Freeman last week and asked me if I knew who he was. Oh, God. They only had 500 people watching the live debate on their TYT channel on YouTube yesterday. 500 on YouTube? Yikes. That is incorrect. God, I hope so, because that's tiny.
And if you had the sound off for this debate, which I'm sure nobody did, what you would have seen was Trump looking physically hunched, angry, squinting. I never saw the whites of his eyes the entire
let's go back to Trump
debate.
Shouting, Kamala Harris debate thing.
Constantly interrupting himself, not just going down tangents, but being unable to finish a thought, seeming very frustrated, very angry, very negative, and very tired. In contrast, Kamala Harris appeared to be.
Are we going to watch the whole debate? Do you guys want to rewatch the debate? Like, is that what people want? I already watched it. I don't really want to. I mean, it wouldn't be that long, would it? I just want to do highlights of it. I don't really want to do the whole debate. I did some commentary when I was on Vio's stream last night during her starting Soonathon. We turned on to the debate and I talked over it for a little bit. I want to do a mea culpa. Some of the insights of Edgermentum last night, they were just so good. How could I have ever doubted him? Like the way he said during the debate, and then there was the other point he made. I can't remember any of them right now, but they were super good.
Feet, quite puzzled by him. The two shot of him squinting and hunching and seeming to be having physical trouble squeezing the words out, certainly squeezing the sentences out, while she just looked at him absolutely puzzled by where it was he was going. I think that visual may be as much of a takeaway.
Kamala is 100% further right than Hillary. Yes. The thing about Kamala Harris is she never got challenged by the progressive movement in a primary. So she never had to do a bunch of promises to the left. This is the ideal situation for the Democratic Party. They got a black woman who never had to address progressivism or the voters. So now for 8 years, they're going to call you a racist, sexist if you criticize her. Prepare yourself. You think things were stupid during 2016. Wait until Kamala Harris is sworn in. If that happens, holy, it's going to be. I mean, the Walls pick was more than Hillary ever did. I mean, listen, there's plenty of hopium. People are passing out hopium left and right. You want me to be the hopium passer outer? Do you want me to be the copium passer outer? I'm not the copium passer outer. That's like, you got Majority Report for that, okay? I'm not saying it's definitely wrong, but I'm not going to be the cope guy. If you want the cope guy, that's Majority Report, all right? Like, we agree on a lot, and then you have your kind of sense of what's going to happen and your belief, and you know, like, what do you want me to say? The unhinged things I'm reading on Mastodon make me wonder if there's any escape from Twitter liberals. Oh yeah, Hillary Clinton's campaign in 2016 had to fight Bernie Sanders to the last primary. So of course she was way more left-wing than Kamala Harris is. Kamala Harris doesn't even say the word public option. And the one thing you should understand is what Kamala Harris promises, she's not going to get even half of that done. She's not going to do more than what she's promising now. Understand that.
Anything that was said. That said, boy, what was said?
Lethal fighting force, though. You can guarantee she's going to be giving more money to Israel and Ukraine and Taiwan and the Pentagon. That you can take to the bank.
Trump repeatedly coming back to the same lines over and over again about world crime rates being low, and that being the explanation for America having high crime rates. He said strange things like all Democrats wanted Roe versus.
And she loses. We saw it coming and we said it was happening. If you go out of your way to do this unskew the polls bull, and she just keeps doing what she's doing and results in Donald Trump winning, you're partially at fault. True.
Wade over.
I think this was a really bad debate for Trump. Most importantly, because the media could say it was a bad debate. But here's the thing, and I think this is a very important point, which is if somebody's a Donald Trump supporter, they're not going to change their mind about being a Donald Trump supporter. I think he has the highest floor of any presidential candidate I've seen in a long, long time. Like, Donald Trump is never going to go below 45%, you know, like that's just not going to happen. Like, so he's always going to be in this thing. He's always, he's going to be one bad news cycle away from winning. Bad news cycle for Kamala. But he was just unhinged. He was just bad.
Returned. He said that it is legal to kill children in the United States. He insisted that he saw something on television about eating dogs. That was one of the weirdest.
I found that Hassan was kind of coping in terms of saying that Harris will win the election after the debate. Well, I mean, you know, listen. I think that she had a high ratings opportunity to look better than Trump, and she did. As far as like how much that's going to change the underlying reality that the Democrats are not trusted, and she has terrible policies on Gaza. Here's how I feel about this election in a nutshell. This is the election where random chance is going to determine the outcome. What do I mean by that? I mean random events that happen that are beyond anybody's ability to foresee are going to be controlling. Because Kamala Harris is not interested in trying to build a durable coalition of a majority of Americans. She wants to be 50-50 and then win a coin flip. That's the plan. And like, you know, could she win that? Absolutely. I think she's accomplished the goal of setting herself up as a coin flip. And you know what? We'll see where the coin lands. Sarah McBride will be the first trans member of Congress. Wow, I didn't know that. What could he say that Kamala Harris didn't have her speak at the convention? Kamala's presidency will be virtually identical to Joe Biden's if she refuses to whip the Dems into nuking the filibuster with a deadlock contested Congress while also refusing to issue executive orders. The probability she has an unproductive and a destructive presidency is near the same as Biden's chances in 2020. Harris' victory is another 4 years of do-nothing establishment Dem politics. Well, I mean, you know, you're probably right. Clarence Thomas could overturn his like RV. You know what I mean? Like Clarence Thomas could be on a private jet with Sam Alito, and they could die in an ice. The plane could ice up, and they could die. Like I do think that there is, you know, a non-zero chance. You know, I wouldn't say it's much above a couple percent of something positive happening. But yeah, I think that's exactly my analysis. My analysis is this. Like, nothing good's going to happen because the Democratic Party is not designed to make good things happen. Like, and this is my main disagreement with Sam Cedar. Like, listen, if the Democratic Party was out there saying stuff like, we got to admit DC as a state to fix our democracy. We need to, you know, get rid of the filibuster because it's anti-democratic and the Republicans are obstructionists. If the Democratic Party was out there saying like, hey, you know, we're going to pass the For the People Act to do reforms of our democracies, and we're going to do ranked choice voting so there's never another spoiler in the presidential election. You know, if they were out there arguing for democratic reforms that would make America more robust, more stable, more democratically responsive, less corrupt, you know, all those things, then I think voting for Democrats would be worth it, even though they're far to my right. But they don't believe in any of that. They like the system being dysfunctional because that's what their donors want. And I think it's a real insult to everybody's intelligence to say voting for the Democrats is some sort of harm reduction action, when in reality, it's a harm enhancement. And until the Democratic Party and the media, especially the progressive media, like, we should be smart and strategic. We should be making those strategic demands, not the whatever people are doing now. You know, like you have people pretending like, oh, if you vote for Jill Stein, we'll get Medicare for all, which is nonsensical, right? Like the Green Party is not a real party. The purpose of the Green Party is to grift off of our federal matching fund system. This is what the Green Party is really for. You want me to explain what the Green Party is for? Why I'd never never support the Green Party? First of all, they're libs. That's why they're called the Green Party and not the Red Party, okay? Because they're liberals, okay? That is the Green Party. Number one, liberals. Two, they exist to grift. The grand strategy of somebody like Jill Stein is to get 5% of the national election, and then she'll get federal matching funds, and then grift a whole bunch of money, hire all her friends as consultants, and spend that money into their pockets from the fucking federal treasury. That's it. Get rich. That is the long-term plan of the Green Party's inner circle. Get rich from this system. That's it. So, like, what do you want me to say? Like, you know, that's not a strategy either. That, I mean, anybody who promotes that is promoting a grift, is promoting a scam. Mike, please correct me if I'm wrong, but if the Biden-Harris administration won't raid Israel, won't Bibi simply pull off something in October so Trump wins? I mean, yeah, that's definitely possible. In 2017, Jabari Brisport ran for city council as agreed with support from AOC and DSA and lost by nearly 40 points. In 2020, he ran as a Dem for New York Senate with support of DSA and AOC, and he won his primary by 20 points. As senator, he's racked up major wins for working people. I agree. I mean, at the time when Jabari Brisport was running for Green Party chat, I was in the Majority Report. I was in the Michael Brooks Discord, and I was saying the Green Party's a joke. He should run as a Democrat. And honestly, Jabari was probably the best Green candidate at a state level in years. When he switched to the Democratic Party and ran as a Democrat, he kicked ass. The Green primary election, 32 votes. And then he ran and he got 9,307 votes as a Green Party. That's pretty good. I mean, he got absolutely annihilated, but that's pretty good for a Green. He finished second. And then he got a fucking clue and he ran in the 2020 primary and he kicked out. He's also the Working Families Party candidate. I think he asked people to vote for him as the Working Families Party defusion candidate. Now, the Working Families Party is different. The Working Families Party, the purpose of the Working Families Party is to basically be trade union Democrats. Do you think Trump or Kamala would be more ideal to organize against for a general strike in 2028? Obviously, Kamala Harris. What are you talking about? Somebody said general strike, LOL. They don't know. They don't know. They don't know about the real general strike. They think it's a Twitter post. They think it's a Twitter post. They don't know, Pepela. They don't know. They think it's a Twitter post. Anyway, let's keep going.
Moments of the debate saying he saw it on television, so therefore he knows it's true, and so therefore what the police said about it can't be true. Kamala Harris kept going back to her plan, her campaign.
Is it a real general strike? Well, I wouldn't call it that yet. But let's just say major unions are setting themselves up for the ability to do a general strike in 2028. Not like Twitter posters saying, nobody go to work tomorrow, it's a nationwide general strike. It's like a real one. Can't they just use RICO on them? They're purposely setting it up so that they're legal. But obviously, yes, they're going to use law enforcement against unions if they do something like that.
But also kept going directly at him. She told him that military leaders who have worked with him have told her that Donald Trump is a disgrace. As she said to him, that you are a disgrace. She described him as confused and unable to understand that he lost the election. She said he was fired by 81 million people, and he's having a very difficult time processing that. She said he was handed $400 million on a silver platter and then filed bankruptcy 6 times. She said people leave his rallies early due to exhaustion and boredom. In talking about the Russia-Ukraine war, she said Putin would be sitting in Kyiv if he were president, with his eyes on the rest of Europe, starting with Poland. And why don't you tell the 800,000 Polish Americans right here in Pennsylvania how quickly you would give up for the sake of favor and what you think is a friendship with what is known to be a dictator who would eat you for lunch. I've never seen a starker contrast in presentation from two candidates in any debate, in any type of contest, in any political race.
I think that's because there hasn't been one. Now, I think that we all know that maximum humility is required of us, particularly in the next 57 days. We do not know the outcome of the election.
Yeah.
But if these matter at all in the outcomes
Yes.
of said elections, it should be over. Because she didn't just prevail in every exchange. She prevailed at the humaning. Questions that were deeply personal, she turned into questions not about herself, not about her campaign, not about the Democratic Party, not even about Donald Trump, but about the country. The whole beginning was...
God, I just love watching these Bush spokespeople.
I don't know if you noticed, his synapses did not seem to be firing, but she got out her entire economic agenda, the thing that Chris Christie suggested she do, use this as an opportunity to say what
in the first
she
2
did it
minutes.
in about the first 8 minutes.
Wow, the amazing economic agenda of Kamala Harris.
It was all out there. You know, to the degree that Trump has support because his supporters are scared or nostalgic about an America that's slipping away, I suppose that was somewhere in there. You know, for what it's worth, the Drudge Report has him, you know, a picture of him with the cat saying it's over. I mean, and to the degree that it's our job to cover what the campaigns do and the political apparatus, the Trump campaign is going to plans B, C, and D, and they have them. You know, they're dark and they're dirty and they're heinous.
What do you mean?
You know, they're going to the types of things that Trump tweeted about, the threats, the retribution, the placement of allies on election boards, as they've done in the state of Georgia. Because this did not win Trump any new voters.
Lauren?
You know, we are now seeing maybe the second presidential...
I'm unfamiliar with the Working Families Party. Basically, the Working Families Party is a party that started in the Northeast by trade unions as a way of pressuring Democrats and creating a progressive party to take advantage of various electoral systems in the Northeast, specifically in places like Philadelphia and New York. New York has what's known as fusion parties, where you can multiple parties can nominate the same person. So it was a way of trying to push Democrats to the left. Occasionally they just run candidates as Working Families Party candidates, but it's supported mostly by trade unions. It's a trade unionist party, number one. That means, though, that if you have leadership of trade unions that are not that great, they can co-opt it. So, you know, if you want your Working Families Party to be good, then you also need your union to be good.
debate in history where Poland might be the deciding issue. that point you isolated, 800,000 Polish people in the state of Pennsylvania. Kamala Harris reached out directly to those voters. If she got 10,000 of them to focus on the threat to Poland that Vladimir Putin represents, she may have won the presidential election in that particular response. Let's start at the beginning. When they entered, I was wondering what was going to happen.
I got to stop it here. The Polish vote in Pennsylvania. These are people these are like fourth generation people now. Like, calm down. Okay. They're not following Polish politics. All right. Like, come on. All right. This lib reaction is actually too stupid for me. Let's go look at some like actual evidence.
Well, the Harris-Trump presidential debate in Philadelphia is now history, and Americans are digesting what they heard and whether it's going to impact how they vote. I want to get some more results from our post-debate instant polls. Our political director, David Chalian, is back with us. David, what else are you learning?
Yeah, Anderson, this is a poll of debate watchers.
Look at the captions that they upload. Like, they don't use the auto-generated captions. CNN is like, no, we're going to upload our own captions. Look at these captions that they're uploading. Like, what is this? Just use YouTube's built-in captions, man. Why do you opt out if you don't have any captions? So annoying, dude.
not of the country overall or the electorate, obviously. But it's not that partisanly, in a partisan way, different than what we see broadly among registered voters. This is really interesting. Among the candidates' favorable and unfavorable ratings, take a look here at what we found. Before the debate, Harris's favorable rating was at 39%. After the debate, among these debate watchers, her favorability rating went up 6 points to 45%. Donald Trump actually ticked down 2 points among these debate watchers from 41% favorable to 39% favorable. That's about roughly the same. That's not
okay, so my reaction is that Kamala Harris didn't win. Donald Trump lost. That's kind of how it feels to me, because it's just like, this is his, you know how he has a really high floor? So basically, this is, you know, almost no change for him. And Kamala Harris just kind of did a gentle blip up. So overall, I think it was more of the contrast between her and Donald Trump, as opposed to like, oh, we really like Kamala Harris. It's more like, oh God, Donald Trump sucks. Hey, Mike, remember how yesterday you said Kamala was going to do poorly, but then she didn't? I think she did about as well as Kamala Harris can do. Which is to say, she baited Trump. This is more about how Trump was bad than she was good. I don't think you can honestly say she did that good. It was more that he just took every piece of bait, which in a certain sense you could say is her. I'm not going to try to deny that I think she did as much better than expected. And as I said during the debate, I never lied about that. I don't think I got anything too wrong. I would say overall, my feeling of this is she did what I was scared she was going to do, but Trump fell for it because he's a lazy idiot. Let me give you an analogy that I think makes sense. So, like, imagine you have a pitcher and they don't have a breaking ball, right? The pitcher can't really pitch a breaking ball. All they could do is throw the heater. And a batter goes up there and they're swinging like they're trying to hit curveballs. It's like, did you read the scouting report? Did you see anything about this pitcher? Like, Trump just went up there and struck out because he didn't do his homework. Kamala Harris went there and she threw balls to the strike zone, which was all she had to do. Like, so I think, as I said before, I think it was more about how Trump is just a total moron. That being said, I want to give Kamala Harris credit as well. I think she looked really good as far as her presentation. I think she had incredible poise. As far as like all the intangibles of presentation and optics, she crushed it. Like, I think that was a really, really impressive as far as like being a politician. I think she looked really good. I think she was very calm. There wasn't even a hint of nerves. I think she threw the punches that she practiced and landed them effectively because Trump sucks at his job. And I think overall, she did well. I think if Donald Trump was actually a decent debater, which at this point he's lost his juice, he would have been able to beat what she was throwing out there. Apparently, there is an MSNBC video of interviewing undecideds. Go ahead and send it to me. She killed it on abortion, which is what I said last night. I think she really did kill it on abortion, but I think her Gaza answer was fucking terrible. As a PAI guy, do you think fracking issue? The majority of Pennsylvanians do not support fracking. Fracking is not really about Pennsylvanians. It's about oil and gas companies. It's about showing your support for oil and gas companies over Pennsylvania voters. Pennsylvania voters don't like fracking. And the people that do like fracking are voting for Trump 95 out of 100. Poison Joe, people in this chat are, I think that the best thing to do when you're a progressive like me is not to become deranged about Kamala Harris, like, because she's conservative. Like, you can evaluate, and I'm evaluating her as a person who, as a political staffer. And my feeling is, if I was a political staff of Kamala Harris, I'd be feeling very good about that debate. I'd be like, yeah, we did what we needed to do. He looked like a total dumbass, and none of our vulnerabilities got exploited. It's like one of those things where you're competent, but the other person is incompetent. It wasn't that you were outstanding. It wasn't that you did anything that was super amazing. It was just, you know, you passed the bar and they didn't. You know, it wasn't anything that great. But I will say, that I think Kamala Harris has really, when Joe Biden dropped out, something clicked in Kamala Harris, and she's a much more comfortable presenter. Like, she leveled up her game when she became the nominee. Like, she's just better at speaking than she was. Is she as good as like many other people that we've watched over the years? No, but she is much better. Much better.
A 2% tick down there is not huge, but I do want to note Kamala Harris's uptick driven a lot by independent voters. She was minus 17, more unfavorable than favorable among these debate watchers going into the debate. And independent debate watchers, they were plus 9 for her favorability coming out of the debate. So a big movement change on her favorability with independents.
Why are we acting like debates are consequential? They are. They are. I mean, it's not that they're the end of the... It's not like they win the thing on their own, except when they can make you lose. They can hurt you. And I think Joe Biden was really low, and then he was finished off by the debate. And I think Donald Trump was kind of just starting to disrupt Kamala Harris's momentum, and now he fucked up and he fumbled the ball. So this gives Kamala Harris another opportunity to start, to be on the upswing again. She was just losing momentum. She was just stalling out, and this debate arrived to give her more momentum.
Ask debate watchers about the confidence in the candidates to lead the country, the ability to lead the country, and the confidence that debate watchers have in that. This is really interesting because even though she was the clear winner in the debate among debate watchers, take a look. 32% say a lot of confidence in her ability to lead the country, and 36% say that.
This was kind of my feeling last night. I posted it last night. I said, I'm a freak that has watched every single Trump debate in both primaries and general elections. It was his worst debate of his entire political career. Harris was really bad on Gaza, but he really just sucked from start to finish. That was my feeling, which is like, Kamala Harris did a competent job. I hated her answer on Gaza. I thought it was terrible. But Donald Trump just had his worst debate of all time. And part of that was what she did to him. I don't want to take all the credit away from her. Some of the stuff was her. She had a bunch of little pieces of bait ready from preparing, and she delivered the bait, and he gobbled on all the bait. He looked like an idiot. So like, that's good for her. Ultimately, that's just, and here's the thing. I can evaluate her debate performance while at the same time not thinking she's a good candidate overall for me. Do you think a lot of people that are independents are actually left-wing and young people? Yes.
That about him, she's a little bit better among those who say some confidence in the ability to lead the country. If you add the a lot and the sum together, they're both at 54%. And so they're quite even on this score, which I think is pretty interesting. And then who had a better plan for solving the country's problems? Harris won on this score among these debate watchers as well. 42% say Kamala Harris had a better plan for solving the country's problem. That's compared to 33% who said Trump. And look, Anderson, 22%. 1 in 5 of debate watchers says neither of these two had a good plan for solving the country's problem. That, not necessarily double haters here, obviously, but that seems to be a target audience for both of these candidates to talk to and explain their plans to over the next 8 weeks.
Yeah, interesting. David Chalian, thanks so much. John King, what do you make of those numbers?
Well, number one, it tells you we entered the debate in a very close competitive race, and we'll leave the debate in a very close competitive race. However,
I agree with that, but I think I think that this presidential race was Trump's to lose, and he's losing it. I think that's basically the way to look at it. Like, once the Democrats had to throw out their incumbent president, they were the favorites to lose the race. Like, they were in deep shit. That was the right thing to do, and I think they largely accomplished it. I think that if there wasn't a war in Gaza, I would say that Kamala Harris would be another 2 points or 3 points better. And I think I would be more comfortable saying she's going to win. But because of the war in Gaza, and because of the way the type of people that care about it are concentrated in electorally college significant states, I think she could fumble this. Even though she's doing most of the things right and winning in a lot of ways that you need to win, the fact that she has a one issue that pisses off a lot of people in very specific states could swing the election to Trump. And that's the kind of thing that I'm concerned about. I mean, obviously there's the genocide going on and it's morally wrong, but also like Donald Trump winning is not going to be good for us. It's not going to be good for me either. You want to know the dirty little secret? There's a lot of people saying, "Oh, Mike, you want Trump to win. You and Hassan want Trump to win because if Trump wins, that'll be really good for you." Will it? Will it? My channel popped off with Joe Biden won. Like, my channel didn't pop off when Donald Trump was president. My channel popped off when Joe Biden won. My channel wasn't popping off when Bernie Sanders was leading in the primary. My channel popped off when Joe Biden won. So it doesn't even make sense. What are you talking about? In fact, the best thing that I could do would be to be a little sneaky little scumbag Democrat shill. You know how much easier my life would be if I was a Democratic shill? Do you know how many more people would be watching me if I was getting access to major Democratic politicians? Are you kidding me? The fact that I criticize the Democrats hurts me. Being at all critical of the left Dems libs is not helpful for my... I mean, Hassan got kicked out of the DNC. And by the way, if there wasn't a genocide going on, I actually think that the Democrats would be kissing our ass. But because they don't want to kiss our ass, because they know that we're going to say the genocide's going on. That's the reason why they wanted to kiss Assad's ass. They want to be able to use the progressive left, but they can't with the genocide going on, and they picked genocide. It's not complicated.
However, advantage Harris on a couple of very significant points. David Chalian noting that where she jumped up was among independent voters. We knew coming into this debate that the largest audience of people, the largest percentage of people who said they were open to changing their mind were people who self-identify as independents or as moderates. So the middle of the American electorate, the people who live in the suburbs, the people who maybe voted for Trump in 2016 and Biden in 2020.
This is just such a bad analysis. To analyze these people as ideologically moderate is just not true. It's just a lie. And it's a corporate media lie that is made to push corporate centrism. That's it. The people in the middle are not in the middle between the two parties. They are not in the middle of the two parties. That's just not true. It's just not true.
You know, incredibly partisan. They're looking for solutions. They're looking for pragmatism. So the fact that her movement was among independents, who had the better...
All of that is, everything he just said is utterly meaningless. You know what's pragmatic? There's plenty of things that are pragmatic. The Polish vote is not a thing. People who trace themselves as Polish Americans do not have an electorally significant racial identity. Okay? They're just a flavor of white. It's like saying the German American vote. It's not a thing.
Debate about solving the country's problems. She came into the debate at a deficit with Trump on the economy. It's a different question. That question was solving the country's problems, but it shows she made progress with people. Are you a president? Right? That was her biggest challenge. Nobody knows the vice president, whether it's Mike Pence or whether it's Dan Quayle or whether it's Al Gore. You know, you're trying to rise from vice president, whether it's Joe Biden, you're trying to rise from president to vice president. You have to prove I'm ready for the first job. It is clear. It is clear that she cleared that bar tonight. Now, that does not mean that she's not still in a very competitive race. But if her progress tonight was among independents, now the question is, can you carry that momentum forward? We count votes 8 weeks from tonight. Still close, still competitive, but in an election that we all expect is going to be decided on the margins, tonight anyway, the question is, can she hold it? She moved the margins that matter.
You know, that one graph of capability to lead the country, the fact that they're basically dead even. Right. I mean, think about where we were 7 weeks ago. Wow. Would you have predicted that 7 weeks later...
Among debate watchers?
Confidence in candidates' ability to lead the country. Donald Trump, a lot, 36, some 18. The 54% think Kamala Harris can lead the country. And 54% think that Donald Trump can lead the country. That's about as even as it gets. Lead the country.
Whatever you think about him, there is a presumption that goes with ability to lead the country. The fact that they're basically dead even. Right. I mean, think about where we were 7 weeks ago. Wow. Would you have predicted that 7 weeks later that Kamala Harris and Donald Trump would be polling evenly? Donald Trump, a former president, you know, and whatever you think about him, there is a presumption that goes with the fact that you were president, that you know the job and so on. You know, so I do think that she filled that. She checked that box tonight. She looked like a president on that stage. There's not a lot of elasticity in this electorate, so I wouldn't expect huge movements here. But this isn't going to be a race that's won that way. It's going to be won incrementally. She took an incremental step forward.
So I'm a little bit surprised by those numbers, because this is as good as it's going to get for Kamala Harris, presumably. I mean, this was Donald Trump's presumably worst nightmare that you could have. If you're a Trump supporter, you watch this tonight, you say, he didn't talk about any of those kitchen table issues like Alyssa was talking about, right? It was grievances. It was rearview mirror, not windshield. It was all the bad stuff. And yet, he's still tied, right? We're still right there. We're still neck and neck. And it's going to come down, again, to the people in Erie County, Northampton County, Macomb County, Michigan. The question is, are 50,000 people swayed in Michigan, Wisconsin, Pennsylvania? Were they swayed tonight? Are they going to be swayed the next 8 weeks? Because that's where they are. Those 50 to 75,000. And did those eat away? As John points out, are those independents? Were those swayed enough to come over and stay there for the next 8 weeks?
Maybe, maybe not. But his iceberg is melting. I'll tell you that. Like she did well by herself. You're right. It's going to be clawing forward. It's going to be clawing forward. But, you know, he did a lot of stuff that we haven't even gotten to. That's just horrible. He wouldn't say that he wanted Ukraine to win. Now, you think about that. It's a very easy thing to say that you want a democracy that we've.
Okay, can I say that this is baby again? Like, this is baby. YouTube banned electronic infantada from live streaming. They should come on Twitch, man. But you should also understand that you gotta make sure that you gotta know the TOS. That's all I can say. They will ban. Anyway, like, this is the type of shit that this is baby shit. I want Ukraine to win. Is baby. They're on Twitch now? Nice. James, you gotta admit he's good at this. You gotta admit first of all, I just want to say his voice. Yeah. You know, I don't know why he doesn't do voice acting in audiobooks. I mean, just listening, he's just captivating. Wouldn't you agree, James? Anyway, besides being toxic. Oh, this is baby shit. He doesn't say he wants Ukraine to win. Who gives a f? He wants. What is he going to do? Can you make an argument for a specific set of policies and make rational arguments for what's going to happen? Like, this is how I know the American empire is, like, on the way out. Because, like, this is reading the entrails. I can't believe Julius Caesar says that he wants to beat the Gauls, or you know, Pompey doesn't even say he wants the Gauls to win or lose. You know what I mean? It's like, what? Are you 5? What are your thoughts on Kabbalah saying Poland is next? My thoughts are that the single best way to prevent war is not American hegemony. The best way to prevent war is for regional, supranational, and international institutions to be built that have the power to keep all these different countries in check, that will force mutual respect, and that the idea that the United States is going to be confronting Russia and Poland as a good strategy long term is insane, and that European Union should form their own defensive capability.
Rally the world behind that. Frankly, people in Pennsylvania, munitions being made there are going to help. Gas that's being fracked there is going to help. He would.
Yo, if you want to lose the election, that's the argument to make. We're fracking your gas and polluting your groundwater, and we're sending it to Ukraine. What? We're not funding your schools. We're building bombs and sending them to Ukraine. What?
Even stick up for the Ukrainians in Pennsylvania when Pennsylvanians are helping us win there. He did terrible.
Well, he could have more clearly absolutely stated, look, I would not sign an abortion bill if it came across my desk. He got into the nitty-gritty about not 60 votes in the Senate. Right?
On abortion, let's actually play what both of the candidates said on the topic.
One does not have to abandon their faith or deeply held beliefs to agree. The government, and Donald Trump certainly, should not be telling a woman what to do with her body. I have talked with women around our country. You want to talk about this is what people wanted? Pregnant women who want to carry a pregnancy to term, suffering from a miscarriage, being denied care in an emergency room because the healthcare providers are afraid they might go to jail, and she's bleeding out in a car in the parking lot. She didn't want that. Her husband didn't want that. A 12 or 13-year-old survivor of incest being forced to carry a pregnancy to term. They don't want that.
What I did is something for 52 years. They've been trying to get Roe v. Wade into the states. And through the genius and heart and strength of 6 Supreme Court justices, we were able to do that. Now, I believe in the exceptions for and life of the mother. I believe strongly in it. Ronald Reagan did also. 85% of Republicans do. Exceptions. Very important. But we were able to get it, and now states are voting on it. It's the vote of the people now. It's not tied up in the federal government. I did a great service in doing it. It took courage to do it. And the Supreme Court had great courage in doing it. And I give tremendous credit to those 6 justices.
You know, I thought that was probably one of her best responses in the debate. And what Donald Trump did that we didn't play there is in that response, he threw people under the bus. Threw his vice presidential candidate, J.D. Vance, saying we didn't talk about whether or not he would veto a national abortion ban. He threw Kansas and Ohio under the bus. He said those were liberal votes. Last I checked, Ohio, my home state, and Kansas are pretty red, but the American public are not actually where Donald Trump and the Republican Party want to go on abortion. But what I think she also did was, in this debate on abortion on many issues, was, you know, I'm the coalition's person. She talked to different parts of her coalition. We know women are going to be critical. This is the first presidential since the fall of Roe. We actually don't know if it's going to carry over. I think it will still be a top of the ticket issue. But so Donald Trump talks about...
I think the advantage of Roe is that it juices turnout for the Democrats. So for people that are, you know, Democratic leaning voters, it's a concrete progressive position the Democrats are forced to take, which they hate doing because their base wants them to. And because it forces them to take a progressive stance, it's valuable to the Democrats. And you have to understand, the donors don't like when Democrats take progressive stances because the donors don't want the Democrats to win by too much. Actually, Joe Biden said it, like when he was running for president, Joe Biden said, that he was worried that the Democrats would win by too much and that would hurt bipartisanship. Now, when you saw that, you're like, wait a minute, I thought the Republicans were an existential threat to democracy and you want them to win a bunch of elections? How does that make sense? And it makes perfect sense from the, you know, perspective of somebody like Joe Biden. Joe Biden wants to be the guy in the lighthouse sitting there. He doesn't want to be the guy building something new, right? And if too many Democrats win, well, then there's an expectation that something's going to be changed or built or created. So the goal of most Democratic centrists is to win narrowly and then give as much power as they can to the Republican Party. And the thing about the Roe shit is you can't do that. Like the Republicans are not going to support a bill to support women's reproductive rights. So it kind of forces them into this progressive conundrum, which helps them, which they hate.
She went to a sorority party. Let me tell you, as a person who is a part of a black sorority, that was offensive to black people who know the history. It's not a party. It's a public service organization. So she didn't go there and talk about it, but she talked about, you know, the Central Park Five when he baited her there. She talked about Dick Cheney. I know we probably all were like watching Dick Cheney and Liz Cheney endorse because we follow this every single day. But some people probably didn't know he endorsed. That speaks to those Republicans in Erie, Pennsylvania that you still talk to.
No, it doesn't.
And then the independents.
No, it doesn't. No, it doesn't.
Yet he can't be a mature adult, not scream when he gets upset about crowd size.
I actually would love to see a poll. Here's what I would love to see a poll of undecided voters and then asking them straight up, does hearing that Dick Cheney endorsed the candidate make you more or less likely to vote for them? I would love to see that poll.
Chris Christie is here, and Donna.
I mean, Chris Christie still getting on TV is amazing. Like, I love Chris Christie because he's such a disgusting slob and he has absolutely no supporters or friends. But he gets on television because he's perceived to be a centrist Republican. And there's nothing that the media loves more than putting centrist Republicans on TV. He has absolutely no charisma. He has absolutely no support. He has got absolutely no influence. But he still gets to go on TV because libs love it.
Brazil down in Philadelphia. Welcome to you both. Chris, let me begin with you. You've debated Donald Trump several times. What did you make of last night?
You know, it was an incredibly typical performance on his part when he's unprepared. Now, you know, I ran his debate prep in 2016 and 2020, and it was always a wrestling match, George, to try to get him to focus, to try to get him to stay disciplined. And it really was like a boxing match between us in prep. It's clear he didn't have anybody who would smack him around during prep this time, because he went out there and just did whatever the heck he wanted, straight from his instinct and his gut.
By the way, Chris Christie is not Trump's enemy. Trump doesn't like him. If Trump called Chris Christie would run back to his camp in a heartbeat. The reason why Chris Christie is on the outs is because Trump doesn't like him. It has nothing. Chris Christie would suck his dick if called upon.
Be angry and a grievance candidate, and
which is the same with every Republican. I saw this coming with what's her face, the UN ambassador, Nikki Haley. I saw it coming with Nikki Haley too. I told you there are no Nikki Haley voters that are not already going to vote for the Democrat. Okay, like you crazy. Like the Nikki Haley voters break down into two phases. Republicans that don't particularly like Trump and wanted to vote for somebody else who are going to vote for Republicans anyway because they're Republican, and Democrats who are trying to do mischief. There was and then what happened? Nikki Haley immediately endorsed Trump. Why? Because she wants to work in Trump's White House. She's a Republican.
The amazing thing was for me is that it's clear Vice President Harris spent a lot of time preparing, and she very deftly put in a whole bunch of bait, and every time she threw the bait out, he chased every rabbit down every hole, whether it was about rallies, whether it was about people eating pets in neighborhoods, and all these different crazy stories. And look, I think what people, her goal last night for the people that she was talking to was to look like she belonged up there. You know, she is a very lesser known candidate than Donald Trump. And so she did it. She accomplished what she needed to accomplish, and he helped her.
Donna, it did seem like Kamala Harris was executing a strategy almost to the script.
Absolutely, George. And first of all, I want to say I'm in Washington, D.C., but my heart, I'm sure like Robin and many others, is down on the Gulf Coast in Louisiana. So there was no question that there was one person who showed up as the next president, and that was Kamala Harris. She had a solid performance. George, we knew that she had to go in there and introduce herself to the American people. She also had to lay out some fundamental issues and vision that she has for the country, but she owned the moment from that handshake. She didn't allow Donald Trump to get under her skin. Instead, he took the bait. She was solid and
Did this lady leak questions to Hillary Clinton for a debate? Yes.
Basically talking to the American people. She wasn't sidetracked by his taunts or his rantings. And so I think this gave the vice president an opportunity to once again go out there and continue to tell hardworking Americans how she's going to lower costs, protect the country, and also ensure that everybody in this country feels that we belong here, that she can unite us, and that she can keep America stronger again.
Chris, the first initial polls show that most people who are watching believe that Kamala Harris won the debate last night. But how significant is it to the race? Nothing seems to move the polls that much.
It's along the margins, George, as you know. Look, what are we talking about here? We're talking about 7 to 10% of the voters in 6 or 7 states. Everybody else has decided. Now, that means a marginal change in those voters is significant. We know how close these last 2 races were in 16 and 20, and we suspect this one will be just as close. So I think it is important. But I think the other thing I'd say to Vice President Harris is it was a good performance. It wasn't a great or perfect performance. And if she decides to debate again, if they decide to do it again. Well, she says
she wants to.
I understand.
Do you think President Trump will?
I think he may have to, George, because in the aftermath of this, he's going to have to show that he's got his wits about.
I mean, I agree with this analysis completely. Like, I don't think she did amazing. I think she did competent, and she delivered. Basically, Kamala Harris showed one thing, which is if you give her time to prepare, she can go in there and competently do the job, which you would think that would go without saying for a presidential candidate, but it was an open question. And I would say that she delivered. She won on points, you know, and Donald Trump tripped over his own feet. You know what I mean? Like, but I don't think she landed any knockout blows.
About him. If I were her, I wouldn't be so sure I would do it. You know, when you knock out the defending champ and he wants a rematch, maybe I'll fight 4 or 5 other people before I fight you, before I go into the ring again with him. But that's going to be her call. I think the more important thing is she's got to own some.
It wasn't a knockout. It was she won on points. She won on points.
Some of the mistakes of the Biden administration and say, this is the way I'm going to move on from it. She didn't answer about Afghanistan last night. She didn't answer about the border. And she got away with it.
She said, I support pulling out of Afghanistan. It was the right thing to do. No more Americans have died in that war. It was a fucking stupid war. And you were the one who fucked it up. And she answered on Afghanistan completely. This is what I'm talking about. Like, this is Republicans. Republicans are never going to say, oh, yeah, you were right. You answered that. They're going to just be like, she didn't answer. What do you want her to answer? We should reinvade Afghanistan? That's what Chris Christie wants her to say.
With it because he was so unhinged. Now, if he comes back with a more disciplined approach, she's going to have to answer that. And by the way, and I said this in the New York Times yesterday, there's nothing wrong with admitting when mistakes were made. The American people will understand that and they'll respect you for it. Everyone who watched the withdrawal from Afghanistan knows it was a mistake the way it was done. Everyone who watches what's gone on the border and what's changed since they got tougher knows that their earlier approach was a mistake. She wasn't in charge. It was Joe Biden who was making those decisions. So she should just say, look, it was a mistake. I own it, and I know I can do better.
Donna, does Kamala Harris need to show more separation from Joe Biden?
I hope she doesn't try to separate herself from the policies that really enable
my God,
the American people to get back on their feet. There's a lot more
That's
that
not
she
what he said, you dipshit.
can do and the country needs to do. But let me just tell you this. Last night, once again, she had a vision. She even defended our basic freedoms. She didn't have to go in there and do tit for tat. She had to go in there and say, look, I'm ready to outline a vision. I have a plan, and I want to move this country forward. She did that. Look, I want to quote one of Taylor Swift's great songs. I'm a Swiftie. Donald Trump is going to have a hard time shaking off that debate performance.
Donna Brazil,
a hard time shaking it off.
She didn't answer the fucking question.
Thanks very much, Michael.
We saw what Donna did. We got you, Donna.
Let's get a fact check now of the debates.
Fact check, chat. Every centrist favorite thing. Fact check. No one cares, but let's go ahead and check it out anyway.
CNN senior reporter Dan.
Statement from Vice President Kamala Harris. The killing is a horrific tragedy that should never have happened. Doug and I are keeping her family and loved ones in our prayers. How do you say her name? I don't want to be Mike from PA and completely Asenyor Iggy? Is that how you say it? I really need to learn like more languages than white.
Ayşenur Ezgi.
Egi, that's what I thought. Okay, good. I got it right. Jesus Christ. Doug and I are keeping her family and loved ones in our prayers. Asenyor was peacefully protesting in the West Bank, standing up against the expansion of settlements when her young life was senselessly cut short. No one should be killed for participating in a peaceful protest. The shooting that led to her death is unacceptable and raises legitimate questions about the conduct of the IDF personnel in the West Bank. Israel must do more to ensure that incidents like this never happen again. Israel's preliminary investigation indicated it was the result of a tragic error for which the IDF is responsible. We will continue to press the government of Israel for answers and for continued access to the findings of the investigation so we can have confidence in the results. There must be full accountability. What does that mean? Is this a bot? That seems like an AI response, right? Oh, the media doesn't give a shit about American lives. You have to understand something, chat. American citizenship doesn't bring you any like, you're not like the citizens of previous empires, right? If a Roman citizen was kidnapped by pirates, then Rome would have sent a putative expedition to rescue or ransom the Roman citizen. Like a Roman citizen could walk around completely assured that they weren't going to be attacked, because if they were attacked, there would be revenge. That was 2,000 years ago. The United States of America gives the gun to the people that shoot Americans. Like this is probably the most cucked empire in the history of the planet. Why? Because it's the American power is not there to serve American citizens. It's there to serve capitalism. A Roman citizen or a non-Roman Italian? I said a Roman citizen. What are you confused about? I don't think I could have been more clear.
Daniel Dale was listening closely to both candidates. Daniel, what stood out to you?
Jake, what stood out was that this was a staggeringly dishonest debate performance from former President Trump. Just lie after lie on subject after subject. By my preliminary count, Jake, Trump made at least 33 false claims, 33. By contrast, by, again, a preliminary count, Vice President Harris made at least one false claim, though she added at least a few misleading claims and a few more that lack key context. I think a lot of Americans say, well, all politicians lie. No major presidential candidate before Donald Trump has ever lied with this kind of frequency. A remarkably large chunk of what he said tonight was just not true. And this wasn't like little exaggeration, political spin. A lot of his false claims were untethered to reality. On abortion, saying every Democrat wanted Roe v. Wade overturned, though actually more than 80% of Democrats supported Roe. On crime, saying it's through the roof, though it's actually sharply down since early 2023. It's now lower than it was since Trump left office. On healthcare, saying he's the one who saved Obamacare, the law he
acting like Romans cared more about their people than America is laughable. The gate kept citizenship for 400 years. What, are you stupid? Are you mentally okay? You should go to the doctor, dude. You should mentally go to the doctor. I think honestly, you know what? Where are you at? I'm just gonna help both of us out. You're not welcome here. Just there's other streams that are more your speed. I gave you the one remedial comment. I can't go for two. Just go our separate ways.
He actually repeatedly tried to overturn on Kamala Harris herself, saying that a Howard University grad, Black Law Students Association president, had claimed that she wasn't black at one point. Frankly, I don't have enough time here to run through each specific Trump false claim. I urge people to go to our CNN website or our app to read our team's detailed fact checks on this and a whole bunch more. For now, though, let's dive into one false claim Trump made, an egregious claim about migrants supposedly eating people's pets.
In Springfield, they're eating the dogs, the people that came in. They're eating the cats. They're eating the pets of the people that live there.
He really is just your racist uncle. It's not much more complicated than that. He's just your racist uncle.
Not only false, I think it's fair to call this odious. This, for people who have not been online in the last couple of days, this claim about Haitian migrants in Springfield, Ohio, eating people's pets originated with a Facebook post that attributed the claim to a neighbor's friend's daughter. So, a third-hand broken telephone kind of thing. The city of Springfield and the Springfield police say there are no credible reports of this happening. And even J.D. Vance, the vice presidential candidate who himself had promoted these claims, acknowledged this morning that the, quote, rumors might turn out false, although he still encouraged people to spread these cat memes. Now, I'll note that Trump himself added dogs to the equation. They had not even been part of these viral nonsense rumors before. Now, let's look at one false claim that Vice President Harris did make about the economic situation that the Biden-Harris administration was left by Trump.
Let's talk about what Donald Trump left us. Donald Trump left us the worst unemployment since the Great Depression. And what we have done is clean up Donald Trump's mess.
So the Biden-Harris administration was not actually left the worst unemployment since the Great Depression. They were left a 6.4% unemployment rate in January 2021. That was certainly elevated by recent standards, pretty high, but it was significantly down from the 14.8% level it reached early in the pandemic. So it was already improving at the time the Biden-Harris administration took office. And that 6.4% level was the highest since the Great Recession. So in the last 20 years, not going back decades further. Anderson?
Daniel, thanks very much. A lot to go through. We appreciate it.
Joining me now to discuss all this, Leah Wright-Rigueur, CNN political analyst and historian, Ron Brownstein, CNN political analyst, Bakari Sellers, also a CNN political commentator.
All the people that get on television are always the biggest hacks and idiots. It's actually shocking.
And David Polyansky, who is a Republican strategist.
It's like a chatter missing my entire point was they're like, Mike, they gate-kept citizenship for people. As if that was, I'm actually one guying over this chatter. My point was, if you were a Roman citizen and you were abused in the ancient world, the Romans would go and fuck up your murderer, kidnapper, whatever, because that was the entire point of having an empire. Because you were a Roman citizen, the Roman government would actually try to defend you. I was talking about an American citizen who was just murdered by Israel, our puppet state. Instead of being humiliated and embarrassed and apologizing because they killed the empire's citizen for which they exist, they laugh about it. So being an American citizen is more laughable than being a Roman citizen 2,000 years ago. That they're trying to say that I'm wrong because not everybody in Italy had Roman citizenship. What are you talking about? What are you talking about? Mike, you're doing the meme, all men think of the Roman Empire. Who said that was wrong? But I actually do. The thing about the men thinking about the Roman Empire is most of the conservatives who say that, what they're talking about is the armor and the shield and maybe watching Gladiator. They don't actually mean studying the Roman Empire, which I've done. I took a lot of the classics. I studied a lot of the Roman governments, when I was in school. I actually did study like actual Roman history, not like watching Gladiator on Blu-ray or whatever the fuck. They don't mean studying. Studying implies ability to read. Yeah, what they're talking about is playing a video game or something. Have you read Parenti's book on Caesar? Worth reading. The answer to that is I want to read that book, and I haven't read that book, but I bet you I agree with it. Funnily enough, I have always been pro-Caesar. The anti-Caesar propaganda is actually right-wing British propaganda who were trying to defend the aristocracy by making analogies. I'm pro-Caesar. Brutus was a reactionary. Exactly correct. Anyway, chatter, I still don't understand your brain, which is why I banned you, because I can tell that you're one of those people that just shouldn't be here. You just shouldn't be here. Because you could have said, well, Mike, don't you think it's interesting how the Roman citizenship was so gate kept? And I would be like, yeah, it's sort of like how America gate keeps our citizenship. People could live here as law-abiding, tax-paying citizens for decades and not have access to legal immigration. That's crazy. But no, you had to be a chatter who would be like, no, your point is wrong because of totally irrelevant point. Holy shit. This is why I banned you. We're not going to watch the whole debate. We're watching the coverage about the debate.
Just welcome to all of you. Thanks for starting off. I feel like I just kind of went to bed after the debate, in fairness. So I appreciate you guys.
I just don't I don't see the point of watching the debate again, Chad. I really don't.
Hanging in there with me. Ron Brownstein, let's start with the big picture here, because there were such high stakes for Kamala Harris in this debate. She had not been in this kind of forum before. She was facing someone who had been on this stage multiple times. I have to say the Democrats that I talked to are absolutely thrilled this morning. Is that your takeaway too? What are you looking at?
I think the only way that debate could have gone better for her would have been if it was on October 20th and not September 10th, which is not an inconsiderable point. You know, I felt after the first debate with Biden that if not for Biden's obvious deterioration, we would have been talking about how much Donald Trump's capacity to deliver an argument, to stay on point, to craft a message had declined. And that's what we saw tonight. I mean, the age contrast, the energy contrast, the vigor
last
contrast.
Night, technically.
You know, or last night. Yeah, I guess it was still one. One of the key problems Democrats have faced in this race is that Donald Trump's retrospective job approval rating has been increasing to a point where it has been higher in many polls than it was at any point during his presidency. Now, why is that? It's because voters, I think, have been judging him mostly through the lens of what they didn't like about Biden, particularly inflation. What the debate did last night was remind voters everything else that comes with Donald Trump. And just one last point. Trump sounded like someone who was calling into a Fox News show. I mean, he has spent so much time speaking to his core audience, which is still a strength. And, you know, he's going to turn out a lot of those people that I think he had lost the ability to talk to a broader audience, defending the January 6th rioters, saying that everybody wanted Roe v. Wade to be overturned, claiming again that he won the election, and kind of the peak of this, you know, insisting that in a very kind of racist argument that immigrants are eating people's cats and dogs. It was all, he looked like someone who was coming out of a dark movie theater into sunshine and kind of squinting because he has spent so much time talking to this narrow universe. He really had nothing to say to a broader audience. Now, real quick, I mean, the underlying realities are still there. 60% of Americans think they are not better off because of the policies of the Biden administration. When Trump was able to get to that, it's a reminder that those are going to be headwinds for Harris, but she could have not done any more than she did last night.
Well, David Polyansky and Leah, I want you to weigh in, and honestly, I want everybody to weigh in on this. But David, I would like you to defend, to address this point of because I got multiple notes from people saying, well, it's like, I think we have seen which candidate is entirely online, because there were all these moments where Trump was focused on issues that seem very in one corner of the universe. I was talking to, it's anecdata, but when you get texts from all your family members who don't really pay attention to this stuff until a big moment like this, they're kind of like, what is this? What is he talking about?
I don't know fully, but look, I think last night, all of us that have been a part of politics for most of our adult lives and participated in debates know one truism, which is if you end up sending your candidate to the spin room after a debate, you didn't win.
Yeah.
And last night, Donald Trump went to the spin room inexplicably and took questions from the press. The vice president went to a debate watch party. It's a pretty good sign of where they both felt the night ended up. And, in terms of the message, well, look, she was incredibly well prepared. Make no mistake. You could see that from the start. But I think the most important part of it was she was on offense from the minute not only the minute she started talking, but the minute she walked on stage. She walked across to former President Trump's podium and made him shake her hand. She was prepared, she was confident, and she was on offense from the start. And I think that played into his worst fears.
Yeah, I think this is definitely looks like she's spending time thinking about this stuff, which you would think would be going without saying. But when Donald Trump and Joe Biden have been the major candidates, like in the past 8 fucking years, it is surprising that she's doing like stuff that if you were preparing for a high school debate, you would do. Like, it's legitimately surprising how incompetent Donald Trump is. Like, yeah, I mean, obviously he's an incompetent moron and all that other shit. But, like, his level of stupidity is pretty impressive.
In terms of not only not being able to proactively drive his message, but to your point, fall back to what he's comfortable with, which is more conservative media.
I mean, I think from the very beginning, one of the things that Ron brought up was that those of us who watched Joe Biden versus Donald Trump realizes that Donald Trump gave the second worst debate performance in American history. The problem was that the person who gave the worst debate in American history was also on that stage. And so when you actually take...
Now you've been freed to say that.
When you take
Where
Joe
were you
Biden...
2 months ago?
Listen, 75 days makes a lot of difference. When you take Joe Biden out of that debate, you see someone who is not capable. And that gave Kamala Harris a little bit of the confidence. Look, she was nervous the first 5, 6, 7 minutes. Everybody saw it. And she had the ability to bait him and counterpunch him. And that's what I said this debate was going to be about. It reminded me so much of Ryan Garcia versus Devin Haney, which was a fight that happened maybe 3 months ago.
You're going to have to fill me in on that.
But no, I mean, and Devin Haney was supposed to be a jabber and a good puncher, and Ryan Garcia was a counterpuncher. And Kamala Harris came out and she baited, she used the jab, and then she counterpunched. She counterpunched. She was able to hit
God, he's so worthless. Am I mean? Bakari Sellers was like one of the big Biden dead enders. Whenever I see this coverage, I'm always struck by why alternative media is growing so much. Alternative media is growing so much because we actually try to analyze and delve deeper into the policies than you get on mainstream media. And I'm just a guy, right? Like, now I am an outstanding guy. Now, listen, I know that sounds egomaniacal, and it is. But I'll tell you why I'm outstanding here in a second. I worked for the Committee of Urban Affairs. I ran for political office in 2014. I was a political director. I was a finance director. I helped people win in state, local, and federal elections, countywide elections. I've studied these policies. So when we talk about the policies, I went to law school. So I have a breadth of knowledge and experience, that is going to, like, what's Bakari Sellers done? Been on television? Like, legitimately dim bulb. And television, like, they're afraid of talking about anything that's substantive It's all this kind of talk. It's all this kind of like punching. She was punching and then he was punching back. And it fills the air with bullshit. And what's really crazy to me is politics and policy is incredibly important and touches every aspect of our lives. There isn't one thing that you can do that politics has not set the boundaries of. Not one thing. Not one fucking thing. And that's not how people think of politics. People think of politics as this kind of team sport, parasocial experience. It's just, it's shocking.
Him pivot and move to the American people. Last night you saw someone who was very prepared, and you knew about 9:28.
And by the way, like, you know, obviously I don't know. I don't know what to say. It's just, this is CNN.
I think I marked it. 9:28 was when this thing was over. That's when she went into the rallies. When she started talking about his rallies, which for him is his manhood.
It wasn't clear it was going to be over at that point.
Oh, but no. I
once he sort of came back at her.
Those of us around the orbit said, look, at that point, he was going to unravel. It was going to go downhill, and she was going to be able to find a groove. Up until that point, it might have been even. It might have been nip and tuck.
The abortion answer was before that. That was pretty strong.
She was strong, though. She was strong. But he unraveled.
Yeah.
He unraveled on rallies. She gave a very sound answer on reproductive freedom, scoring on substance, but he was done for after she questioned the size of his.
Well, it was two-pronged, right? Because on the one hand, she had to make a case for herself and her own policies, and she was put on comfortable footing when she was asked near at the top of the debate about abortion, and we saw that some of that nervousness fade away when she did that. And Leah, then, as Bakari points out, the other thing that she was clearly had spent a lot of time practicing was how to get under Donald Trump's skin. And the other thing that kept sticking out to me, too, was that she clearly had studied how to use the split screen to her own advantage. And we've seen times when that can cause problems.
In a related news, did you hear that Hutch is turning his entire channel into politics only and giving up his gaming content? My guess is it's because he got a couple thousand people watching him during the debate. You know what? Honestly, after seeing his gaming, I understand, but he's legitimately a dim bulb and not very bright. But he's just a Democrat shill. So I don't know. Maybe that'll work out. Good luck, I guess. Good luck, I guess.
Candidates. I mean, when Barack Obama debated Mitt Romney the first time, it was the way he looked, kind of agitated in the box next to Mitt Romney, that made it.
Maybe he'll make enough money to pay me. Well, he did tell me that Build Back Better was going to get passed, and that he did tell me that Joe Biden was going to stay in the election. It was going to win in 2024 if Donald Trump ran. And he did say that Donald Trump was going to go to prison before the election. So I'd say, as far as the major, and here's the thing about the bets. Here's the thing about the bets that are very important, Chad. It's not even about the money. It's not even about the money. It's that he was so arrogantly overconfident of his analysis on those issues, and he was wrong. He was staggeringly wrong. Not one of those things that he was arguing with me about and getting really irritated with me about was he right about. Every single one of those things, I was right and he was wrong on the substance. So no matter what, whether he can weasel his way out of paying me $1,500, which if you're a successful streamer, $1,500 isn't that much money, right? Even if he successfully free rolls his way out of paying me, he was wrong. You were wrong about Build Back Better. You were wrong about Donald Trump going to the prison before the election, and you were wrong, dead wrong, that Joe Biden would beat Donald Trump in the 2024 election. You were wrong. You were wrong. You were wrong. You were stupid. You're a very stupid person. Anyway, let's keep going.
Seem as though he was struggling. She was doing things like this. I mean, and if you've opened your social media feed this morning, that is what you are seeing.
Yeah, and I think also one of the things that she did really quite effectively is she has this line that she's been repeating over and over on the campaign trail, which is that Donald Trump is a deeply unserious man.
This is a very good question. This is a normie question that I really like answering. Hey, what's up, Nerfed? Nerf Issa asked a very important question. They say, why can't we just have an age limit for Congress? They live in a different time mentally. Well, see, this is, unfortunately, You are asking a question that is a liberal question, which is, how do we set up institutions that on their own deliver justice? And the answer is you can't. Because even if you put an age limit for Congress, that wouldn't make Congress any better. Congress is the way it is, not because of the age of Congress people, but because of the relations of power that form the Congress. Meaning, who are the donors that give these people campaign contributions? What is the media that covers political speech and political content? And 3, who are the voters and the parties that make up the members of Congress? There are a lot of states in America where there are term limits. And in those states, politics is even worse. Term limits has made politics worse. So getting rid of people just because of their age or because they served a certain amount of terms doesn't make your system any better. Why would it? If the donors could just find another puppet they can immediately dump money into their campaign coffers. How does that make Congress better? Age, there's plenty of people our age who believe dumbass shit, right? Being young doesn't make you smart. It's just an objective fact about how long you've been on the planet, okay? It doesn't mean you know what the fuck you're talking about or you believe anything intelligent. You can say to me, well, maybe young people as a group tend to have better politics than old people as a group. But as I said before, that doesn't matter because the donors will pick the member of our generation that has bad politics because that's the politics they want. Nothing that you see, nothing that happens politically happens by accident. Every problem you see in the world is happening because somebody's making money from it. There are no coincidences. There are no accidents. If you see a pothole, that pothole is known about. That pothole is there because somebody's making money from the pothole. When you see a crumbling school, somebody's making money because that school is crumbling. Sometimes it's directly due to the school being crumbling and cutting corners and having a contract to do maintenance and just not doing it and collecting the money anyway. Sometimes it's really rich people getting their taxes cut and not enough money being around to actually pay for things like street repairs. Sometimes it's direct, sometimes it's indirect. But every single problem you see in our society, all of them are solvable and we know how to do it. It's just that the political system is set up with institutions that serve themselves and serve those in positions of power within those institutions. So when you're thinking about this stuff and you think of something like term limit or age limit, all that stuff isn't effective. What you need to be doing is thinking about how do we build power for people like me? And when you're asking that question, how do we make society serve the regular everyday person? That's when you start to become a leftist. That's when you start to get involved in politics for real. That's when you actually stop treating politics as entertainment and start becoming a player in the game. And that's what it is. That's what leftism is. It's about taking regular people and turning them into powerful people. My feed this morning was 2 things: Kamala memes and dead Palestinians from the massacres. Truly dystopian. Yeah, it's really bad. Is going to law school worth it? No. Going to law school is worth it in a few narrow circumstances. Somebody else will pay for it, number 1. 2, you are going to one of the top 14 law schools in the country. So we're talking about Harvard. We're talking about Columbia. We're talking about Penn. That's like that. Like if you're going to one of the top couple, top 13, top 14, whatever law schools, or if you can go to a top 50 law school and you have a full ride. Now, if you're somebody like me who can, take your law degree and use the knowledge that you learned to spin it into another, job, that's great too, but that's not guaranteed. If you go to law school because you want to be a lawyer, though, that is the real advice. So if you want to go to a top law school, you should have like around a 4.0 GPA in undergrad, and you need probably around I'd say like 168 to 170 on the LSAT. Maxwell Prost courted Palestinian supporters as primary by being presumptive pro-Palestinian option before taking a slew of pro-Israel endorsements, donations, and releasing a position paper defending U.S. military aid to Israel and openly attacking the BDS movement.
Don't count us out because we're young, because what we are experiencing is valid. We've been through more mass shooting school drills than fire drills. That perspective is important.
Is Congress ready for Gen Z?
If you feel like this time is different,
Let me hear you make some noise!
Maxwell Alejandro Frost, the 25-year-old who won the Democratic primary in Florida's 10th congressional district, says yes.
As potentially the youngest member.
Okay, wait, why are they posting this really old video? Why are you posting this really old tweet from September 2022? Are you just, oh, you're supporting my point about young people being good just because they're young. Oh, okay, I get it. Sorry, chatter. I was like, wait, what is this about? Okay, I get it now.
Is a deeply unserious candidate who has serious consequences for the American public.
I remember when he won and you said you were unsure about him. Yeah, I know. Most politicians are, yeah. I mean, like the main problem we have today is that the left of America is not like the left of other historical periods, right? The left of America is sort of an internet intelligentsia left. It's not a mass left. And in order to have a left wing that's actually strong, you need the intelligentsia left and you need the mass left. And we don't have the mass left right now. That's what we need to be building. And we almost stole the Democratic Party with shit posting and memes and Bernie Sanders and alternative media. And that would have been insane. And maybe we could have built up the mass left from, Bernie Sanders being the president. I think that was a lot of people's hope. Right now, we need to build up the mass left. We need to build up people, everyday working people who get involved in things like organized labor to build up the left again and give us some fucking muscle. The DSA has set up a National Electoral Academy recently. Yeah. I mean, I'm not against it. It's a fine idea.
Those facial expressions, that mastery of the split screen was all about showing the nation just how unserious but how dangerous he is.
All right, chat. Let's cover another really important event that happened yesterday. Another really important event.
Moments after the big debate, Taylor Swift announcing she is voting for Kamala Harris and Tim Walz. She also used her endorsement on Instagram to take a jab at Republican vice presidential nominee J.D. Vance, signing the post "Childless Cat Lady." Joining us now, CNN's Elizabeth Wagmeister. She has jumped.
I have a good friend who wanted to go to a lower ranked law school and then take that to work for unions. Why does he think he'll get a job with a union with a shit law school? You don't think there are people that are going to top law schools that want to work for unions? My advice is, if you want to go to law school, work on building up your resume to the point where you can get into a top law school. If you can't do it, then, you're pretty much going to take on $200,000 of debt and make $50,000. Does that sound like a good bet?
Into the political fray with no abandon.
Is this elitist shit or top law school is actually better? Do you want to get a job? The thing about law schools they cost hundreds of thousands of dollars. It's a fucking ripoff. One of my friends went to a smaller law school. It is now going to big law to pay off his loans. Well, just because it's small doesn't mean it's bad. I mean, if you graduate at the top of your class at like a top 50 law school, then you probably will get a job. But there's a lot of what we call third tier toilets, which is basically scams. A top 50 law school isn't that bad, but just as long as you have financial scholarships. I mean, if you get a full ride, then sure, go to that law school. If you're not paying for it, fine. Then get it. What actually separates top law schools from other schools academically besides networking? Nothing. Law is a networking job. The skill of being a lawyer is not that complicated. It's all about networking, and it's all about credentializing. It's all about, if you go to a top law school, then you can get a federal clerkship, and then you have a federal clerkship, and then you can work for a top law firm or a top nonprofit or a top union. You know what I mean? But if you don't, then you don't have that networking, then you don't have access to those jobs. So you don't, being a lawyer is not that hard. It's just a who profession. That's what it is. I'm telling you that because this is the real world. You asked me for advice. I'm not going to give you bullshit answers. I'm going to give you real answers.
She has. And this isn't the first time that Taylor Swift has entered the political fray. Back in 2020, she did endorse Biden and Harris. So this isn't a huge surprise. But the surprise, Sarah, is that Taylor made an endorsement at all. It seems that for months there has been endless speculation on whether Taylor, who of course is one of the biggest stars on the planet, would make this endorsement, and this is the biggest endorsement from a celebrity yet for the vice president. Now, earlier this morning on Fox News, Trump was asked about Taylor's endorsement. Let's take a look at what he had to say.
I actually like Mrs. Mahomes much better, if you want to know the truth. She's a big Trump fan. I was not a Taylor Swift fan. It was just a question of time. You couldn't possibly endorse Biden. You look at Biden, you couldn't possibly endorse him. But she's a very liberal person. She seems to always endorse a Democrat, and she'll probably pay a price for it in the marketplace.
One of the things I hate that liberals talk about is idiocracy. But is there anybody who's more, I mean, like, honest to God, he really is just, he's directly out of idiocracy. He's a fucking moron. Whatever happened to the concept of dignity? Whatever happened to the concept of self-respect? He is the most fragile, bitch-made motherfucker of all time. The fact that conservatives like Trump says everything you need to know about conservatism in America. It is the small dick energy of politics. It is the small dick energy of and the guy doesn't know how to eat pussy. Like it is just insecurity, incompetence, and just absolutely pathetic. He don't eat. You know Trump don't eat.
Now, when he says Brittany, he is referring to Brittany Mahomes, who is the wife of the football star Patrick Mahomes. She allegedly liked a post of Trump, so there's been a lot of chatter about that. And you see right there that Taylor and Brittany, who are good friends, they are hugging. They were at the U.S. Open having fun this past weekend. People made a big deal of,
oh my God, you hugged someone who liked the Trump post. Like, guys, are you doing politics? Is that doing politics? That is Gen Z in a nutshell. That is Gen Z in a nutshell. There, I said it. F you, Gen Z. I found out that you liked the Trump post and that you were friends with somebody who liked the Trump post. That is the most pathetic Gen Z coded shit I've ever seen in my entire life. My Lord. My Lord. Leave your computer.
that, but just like Taylor and Brittany, who are very famous in the real world, of course, Sarah, people have friends from all different walks of the political aisle.
I'm not sure she gives a rat's tail about potentially losing some fans because that hasn't happened before and she's endorsed before, but we will see what happens in the future. Elizabeth Wagmeister, thank you so much for your reporting there.
Taylor Swift took to Instagram. She wrote this, quote, "I'm voting for Kamala."
Like, the female billionaires being Democrats is like one of those things where it's just like, of course, you know what I mean? Like, Mike hates Gen Z and boomers. Got it. No, I hate everything. I hate everybody's little annoying picadillos. I hate when people do dumb like, I can't believe you were friends with someone who liked the post. That's just pathetic. I also hate the way boomers are completely out of touch. And yes, does it mean that sometimes millennials are incredibly cringe? Yeah, and they're out of touch too. Yeah, millennials are incredibly liberal, annoying as well. What Harry Potter house of you? I'm so Slytherin and you're so Hufflepuff. Oh, you're Ravenclaw? That makes so much sense. That is a child's book. That is a child's book. And you know what I'm really proud of? I never read a single Harry Potter book. I never played the Harry Potter video game, even though a lot of people yelled at me about it. Mikey, if we ever do that voice again, I'm unsubbing and leaving this platform permanently. What voice? This? All right, let's keep going.
Harris, because she fights for the rights and causes I believe need a warrior to champion them. She added, I was so heartened and impressed by her selection of running mate Tim Walz, who's been standing up for LGBTQ plus rights, IVF, and a woman's right to her own body for decades. Last night.
So those are the things. So what she likes is, this is social liberalism, right? Like, all these things I agree with. This is all like interesting. That none of it is about like helping working people get a leg up in society. None of it is about education. None of it is about like healthcare. It's about like this very narrow personal libertine shit, which I agree with. You know, those are all good things, but it is interesting. None of this has any class dimension to it or any, even noblesse oblige. You know what I mean? Taylor Swift doesn't see herself as some super rich billionaire who that believes that everybody deserves a dignified life, right? It's about, will my gay friends be able to do what they want to do in their private lives? It's very, very interesting how there's absolutely no solidarity with anybody that isn't part of her social milieu. And you know what? Whatever. I mean, I'm glad she's saying vote for Kamala over Trump, I guess. But I wish there was a little bit of a feeling that, you know, our society should help out those that are less fortunate. Just a little bit, just a tiny little bitch.
Last night, Donald Trump didn't shy away from his role in overturning Roe versus Wade.
I was CNN, Judd, sorry.
What I did is something for 52 years. They've been trying to get Roe v. Wade into the states. And through the genius and heart and strength of 6 Supreme Court justices, we were able to do that.
Here was Harris making clear that she wants federal abortion rights protected federally once again.
I absolutely support reinstating the protections of Roe v. Wade. And as you rightly mentioned, nowhere in America is a woman carrying a pregnancy to term and asking for an abortion. That is not happening.
All right, David Polyansky, I'm going to put you on the spot because you have a daughter who's a big Swiftie, so you probably know as much or more as anyone at this table.
I doubt that.
About just how people respond to her, but also as the Republican at the table. I'm really interested to know, do you think Taylor Swift stepping in and doing this is going to move votes, is going to make a difference?
Sure, 100%. You know, look, it was a great night for Democrats last night. There should be some celebration. It will last a day or two, and then this is going to get back to the race that we've seen, a very tight race, which last time was about an 11,000 vote difference in places like Georgia and Arizona. So the debate will impact and move voters. It'll help shape the narrative. An endorsement like this can really move the needle over the long haul, especially with younger voters.
Is he saying Taylor Swift is more important than the debate? Is he saying Taylor Swift is more important than the debate? This is the perfect example of conservative brain rot. This is the perfect example of conservative brain rot. Conservatives think that because big celebrities are nominal Democrats, that's more important than the Supreme Court. Like, conservatism really is about, this is what conservatism's ultimate goal. Conservatism's ultimate goal is, it must be cool to be a conservative or else it's not fair. And they're going to use the force of government to make being a conservative mandatory. That's their long-term project. That's all it's about. It's all it's about. It has absolutely, I mean, it is, to call this pathetic, to call this, you're a fucking grown white man with gray hairs, and you're saying that Taylor Swift's endorsement is more important than the debate, the presidential debate. You are a pathetic fucking loser. You are a pathetic cretin. And this is not surprising. He's Senator Ted Cruz's former chief of staff. I bet you this guy works for like Raytheon as a lobbyist. Legitimately, this is the pathetic. This is, you know what this is? This reminds me of Breitbart. This is a throwback. Andrew Breitbart was a conservative who blew up his brain from excessive cocaine use. And honestly, when Andrew Breitbart died, it was one of the coolest days. It was just like so awesome. It was so great. When I think of Andrew Breitbart is bouldering in the ground, I'm like, yeah, man, that fucking rules. Anyway, he used to say that politics is downstream of culture. And that's what this is. This is basically a Breitbart-esque take. Really pathetic, really stupid.
Voters, it'll help shape the narrative. An endorsement like this can really move the needle over the long haul.
He thinks that the Swift endorsement gives him more votes to winning the debate. He's probably right. No, he's not. Well, he's not.
Especially with younger voters, with voters that I think Bakari talked about earlier, people that she needs to motivate to get out and vote, and even if they are going to vote, to make sure they vote for her and have an enthusiasm about them. I think it was the biggest part of last night, to be honest.
One of the things that I thought was interesting, Bakari, about how she framed this was she said that she was voting for Harris. Many traditional endorsements, people will then say to their followers, supporters, people, you should vote for this person also. Taylor Swift didn't do that. She said in her endorsement, you do your research. You figure out who is the candidate for you. And by the way, you need to be registered to vote. She was clearly talking to a group of people who she realizes may not interact with the political process. It seems to me that if there is power here, it's in that. And I give her credit for taking the sort of hands-off approach instead of trying to tell people what to do.
You know, my 5.5-year-old twin, Sadie, she's going to listen to Bad Blood this morning while eating breakfast and have a little dance party before they go to school. Like, we listen to Taylor Swift every morning in our household. I also think that people aren't picking up on something else she did. Hillary Clinton in 2016 was "I'm with her," and she made the race more so about her, right? And not about the public at large. I mean, that's the biggest criticism of the Hillary Clinton race, as much as I love Madam Secretary. What Taylor Swift actually talked about was she didn't lean into the fact that Kamala Harris is going to be the first female president of the United States. She didn't lean into the fact that she's going to be the first black female president, et cetera, et cetera. She talked about the issues that mattered to her substantively, about things like reproductive rights and those freedoms. And so I think that
there were many groups of Taylor Swift fans who begged her to speak of the genocide, and she ignored all of them. Yeah, exactly. Taylor Swift every morning is a lot. He's doing the Bakari Sellers, former South Carolina state representative. The fact that he's a national media figure is incredible. He's such a hack.
We're in such a permission structure as a community, as voters.
God, this is like all the hack permission structure.
I think it gave other women permission to say, look, you know what? I'm standing on these issues. I'm standing on them loudly and proudly the same way Taylor Swift did.
You know, a long time ago, in a galaxy far away, I wrote a book called The Power and the Glitter, which is a history of the relationship between Hollywood and politics going back to the 20s. And what I concluded was the main value that celebrities can bring to candidates.
Wasn't it?
You know, it was about Louis Mayer and Herbert Hoover going all the way back. But what celebrities do most of all is expand your communications bandwidth. They put you in front of voters who are not going to find you through the normal political channels. And as we were talking about before, as Bakari was mentioning, her challenge in many ways is to reach voters, younger, non-white voters in particular, who are not necessarily easily contacted through conventional political channels. And what Taylor Swift does is reach them through other means. And they will hear about the campaign, hear about her endorsement, hear about the need to register in a way that the debate itself, for example, was not going to reach all of those voters.
Watch the debate.
They probably did not watch the debate.
Although one of the things that she did really quite brilliantly is that she linked to vote.org, which is an organization that she has partnered with for years now.
And we've seen her impact on registration numbers when she has done this
100%. And one of the things that we know coming out of last night is that vote.org experienced a massive spike at 2 points. One, during the debate, when Kamala Harris was talking, she mentions this point. She says, register to vote, right? There's an immediate spike, and it's amongst that young demographic that she needs to win over. But two, when Taylor Swift comes out and says, hey, this is the choice that I'm making, and I'm couching it in a framework of optimism and joy and hope, that immediately triggers another spike. It also triggers a fundraising spike, which is deeply important for these larger implications.
One of the things
honestly, I think Kamala Harris has too much money at this point. Like, there's only so much television you can buy. There's only so many internet ads you can buy. There's only so many billboards you can buy. At a certain point, you run out of paid ads that you can even buy. Like, you just run out. There's only so many. And you get to a point where you have all the ads that you could possibly have. Then the question is, what are you going to do with the remainder of money?
Happened. I called Beyonce. I don't know if I have the right number.
Yeah, wait a minute.
And I was calling and I said, I know it's late. Tell Jay, I said, what's happening, but we need your endorsement. So that's the next endorsement that I'm waiting on, and that might be why she has me blocked.
Yeah.
It could be.
They're waiting for the inauguration. That's when they'll come out.
Taylor Swift, Beyonce, Springsteen rally in Philadelphia in early November is going to be
epic.
That's going to be epic.
I mean, I was at the one that Hillary Clinton tried to do at the end, and you could actually tell at that rally, which was a huge deal, big crowd or whatever, but somehow the energy was not, it sort of presaged what
she
ended
sent
up happening.
Beyonce to Cleveland and not to Detroit. That tells you everything you need to know about the Hillary Clinton 2016 campaign.
Oh my gosh. Okay.
Yeah.
Guys, thank you so much for being here.
I think the saying goes, debates.
I think for me, like the point that I would make about celebrities and stuff like that is, they're right about the communication bandwidth. I think that largely is a good point. But the problem that Kamala Harris is that Kamala Harris is running a campaign like she's Barack Obama. And I mean that as an insult. Like and when I say like Barack Obama, I don't mean in a good way. Like Barack Obama was smart because he used the internet, like the internet bloggers and the internet space to fundraise and stuff in ways that was new and unique. But Kamala Harris is running a campaign largely ignoring those spaces, ignoring alternative media, ignoring places like TikTok, except for the most hackish losers, right? Kamala Harris is leaning on the people that were against her becoming the nominee, the hacks, the people that are and the people that like the hack Democrat partisans are people that were already safely in your base. So what you do is you make yourself look corrupt and unserious and scared when you hire somebody like Olivia or you hire somebody like Victor, whatever his name is. These like centrist hack influencers who were always going to say vote Democrat no matter what. And I feel like the Republican Party on Trump is doing a much smarter campaign with the podcast bros, and it's making significant inroads with young men, but it may not be enough because Donald Trump is just so profoundly unpopular himself. But in the long run, like the Kamala Harris campaign is kind of a relic.
Don't win elections necessarily, right? Both the Trump and Harris campaigns are spinning the debate as a win for their candidates. We wanted to know what debate watchers thought. CNN senior data reporter Harry Enden is here with a brand new suit, by the way.
Oh,
but
yes.
He's also running the numbers. That's a new one. I know I'm right?
It's a tan. I haven't worn this in years. I don't know if it's brand new, but it's brand new for you, and I wanted to match you.
A tan suit, by the way.
Tan and a little bit of tan. There we go.
We're matching. All right. What did you find here as far as how this was received?
Yeah, I'm just going to use a scientific term, and that is that the vice president crushed Donald Trump. All right, so how did the vice president, how much did she crush him by? Look at this. First debate winner margins. Look at that. She won by a 26-point margin, nearly matching Trump's margin over Biden back in June when he won by 34 points. Very similar to Joe Biden's margin of over Donald Trump back in 2020 of 32 points, and significantly higher than the 2016 margin that Hillary Clinton had over Donald Trump in their first debate, just 13 points. But the bottom line here is debate watchers, and they actually leaned a little bit more Republican than the nation as a whole, believe that Kamala Harris easily won this debate. Again, the scientific term is she crushed former President Donald Trump.
All right. Will we see, though, a change in the polls?
I'll get killed, but I'm a centrist leaning toward Trump.
I think that.
But Kamala was incredible last night, and I'm sure people swayed a bit like me. I think the worst part of me as a content creator is I'm no longer curious about people like that. I'm too old to be curious about you. Like a lot of other content creators would immediately want to dive in and be like, oh, why do you consider yourself a centrist? Blah, 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 blah. I'm too old for that. I don't care. I legitimately don't care that you're a centrist. I know what that means better than you do. So if you think that I'm going to ask you questions about your opinions, the answer is no, I'm not. I'm not an American. Is there any reason why the Electoral College is still a thing? Is it useful? The answer to that question is, one, it's in the Constitution. So it is a prescribed method of choosing the president that comes from the Constitution. Two, is it useful? It is useful for increasing the chances of the Republican Party to win. So is that useful in your mind? If you're a supporter of the Republican Party, then this Electoral College is probably useful. But as far as like other uses, there aren't any. A lot of people will tell you the Electoral College was designed to help rural states have more power. That's not the case. The Electoral College supporting the Republicans is just an artifact of history. It's another way of saying luck. It's not designed to do anything in particular. Can you clarify if it was put in the Constitution at the beginning or after the Civil War? If you want to know anything about the Constitution is divided into articles. The president is in Article 2. Article 1 covers Congress. Article 2... Why did you go to Article 3? Article 2 covers the president. Article 3 covers the judiciary. So if you want to know why things are the way they are, you can just pull up Article 2. That's for the president. And you'll go and you'll say... It says, Article 2, Section 1. The executive power shall be vested in a president of the United States of America. He shall hold his office during the term of 4 years, and together with the vice president, chosen for the same term be elected as follows. Each state shall appoint, in such a manner as the legislature thereof may direct, a number of electors equal to the whole number of senators and representatives to which the state may be entitled in the Congress. But no senator or representative or person holding an office of trust or profit under the United States shall be appointed an elector. The electors shall meet in their respective states and vote by ballot for 2 persons, of whom one or at least shall not be an inhabitant of the same state with themselves. And they shall make a list of all the persons voted for and the number of votes for each, which list they shall assign and certify and transmit sealed to the seat of the government of the United States, directed to the President of the Senate. The President of the Senate shall, in the presence of the Senate and House of Representatives, open all the certificates, and the votes shall then be counted. The person having the greatest number of votes shall be the President, if such a number be a majority of the whole number of electors appointed, and if there be more than one who have such majority and have an equal number of votes, then the House of Representatives shall immediately choose by ballot one of them for president. And if no person have a majority, then from the 5 highest on the list, House shall in a like manner choose the president. But in choosing the president, the vote shall be taken by the states, the representatives from each state having 1 vote. A quorum for this purpose shall consist of a member or members from 2/3 of the states, and a majority of all the states shall be necessary to a choice. In every case, after the choice of the president, the persons having the highest number of votes of the electors shall be vice president. But if there shall remain 2 or more who have equal votes, the Senate shall choose from them by ballot the vice president. There you go. Odds the Supreme Court throws out the elections because of the he wording. That would be a funny argument, that the president has to be a man because they used he, his pronouns. So Kamala Harris can't legally be president. Now suddenly conservatives care about pronouns again. She don't got the right pronouns. Donald Trump, what are your pronouns? You have to tell us your pronouns, sir. If you tell us your pronouns, we can make you the president. All right, let's go back to the polling.
That the most likely scenario is that you will, in fact, see a rise in the polls. Why? Take a look at the last 4 times we had a first debate and look at those winners. Did they see a rise in the polls? Yes. Mitt Romney in 2012, Hillary Clinton in 2016, Joe Biden in 2020, and Donald Trump earlier this year. They all saw rises in the polls of 2 points or more. And given how close this race is nationally, given how close it is in the swing states, do not be surprised if Kamala Harris jumps out to a lead nationally, and don't be surprised if she jumps out to a slight, small lead in those key battleground states. It should still probably be a close race based upon history, but no doubt, at least based upon history, we should expect Kamala Harris to receive a polling bump, and a race as tight as this one that would certainly be welcomed.
Okay, so the big question is, historically, what does this all mean for the potential of winning in November? Because there have been debates that people have lost, but they've won the election.
Yeah, there you go. That's the key question, Sarah Seidner. You may receive a momentary polling bump, but does that mean you're going to go on and win the election? Not necessarily, because the fact is the election's all the way in November, and by my calendar, we're still in September. And look at that. Lost the first debate, but won the election. George W. Bush in 2004 lost that first debate to John Kerry. He won in the fall. How about Barack Obama? We mentioned Mitt Romney earlier. Mitt Romney won that first debate, but Barack Obama won in the fall. And of course, Donald Trump in 2016, he lost that first debate to Hillary Clinton, but he went on to win in the fall. So the bottom line is, yes, last night was good news for Kamala Harris. She won the debate in the minds of debate watchers. Yes, based upon history, she should see a polling bump, but that doesn't necessarily mean that she'll win come November.
There's another big difference here, whether or not there's going to be a second debate. We heard Donald Trump early this morning saying that he doesn't think there needs to be one because he felt he won decisively. That is not what the voters that you looked at said.
With this now, CNN's Eva McKend.
I think I won the debate, so I did my job. Why do I need to do another debate? I won. Why is everybody yelling that I lost? Because I feel that I won, and that's the only thing that matters, how I feel. Legitimately, I think that if you like Donald Trump, and I mean this with all due disrespect, you're a dumb person. Now, I didn't say everybody who would vote for Trump is dumb. There's plenty of sociopaths that are voting for Trump because they're evil. But if you like him, you're stupid.
And Elena Treen, they are in Philadelphia. The dust still settling at the debate site. Eva, what are you hearing from the Harris team this morning?
Well, John, bottom line, they believed it was a mission accomplished. They set out to characterize the former president as fundamentally unserious, as more caught up in his own grievances than the concerns of everyday Americans, and as easily susceptible to being needled on trivial matters like crowd sizes, on conspiracy theories like maligning immigrants for eating pets. And in addition to this, they also believe that the vice president commanded the stage and had a good mastery of the issues when it came to foreign policy, when it came to the economy, and especially when it came to reproductive rights, that she illustrated real compassion. Let's listen.
You want to talk about this is what people wanted? Pregnant women who want to carry a pregnancy to term, suffering from a miscarriage, being denied care in an emergency room because the healthcare providers are afraid they might go to jail, and she's bleeding out in a car in the parking lot? She didn't want that. I absolutely support reinstating the protections of Roe v. Wade, and as you rightly mentioned, nowhere in America is a woman carrying a pregnancy to term and asking for an abortion. That is not happening. It's insulting to the women of America.
And though you could see campaign aides with a little pep in their step last night in the spin room, so happy about the debate that they're calling for another one, they are under no illusion, Sarah and John, that the next couple of weeks are going to be easy. They still view themselves as the underdogs and know that there is going to be a difficult road ahead. That is why they are already building out the week with the vice president campaigning both here in Pennsylvania and in North Carolina.
And that road to the election getting shorter and shorter. We are less than 2 months away. I want to talk to you, Elena, about what Donald Trump is saying now. He said this morning, he was on Fox saying that he doesn't need to debate again because in his mind he won, which, as you have noted, John, that is not what the majority of folks, including voters, have been saying. But how does his campaign think that he did last night?
Well, between his campaign as well as many Republicans I spoke with last night, I was texting with many of them throughout the debate. I was in the spin room talking to his advisors. There's a couple of things. I think there's no question that people were very frustrated with his missed opportunities, particularly on some of Harris's answers on the economy, on her changing her positions. They believe that that was an opportunity for Donald Trump to really set his own message, to talk about the key issues they believe voters care about, specifically the economy and immigration. Instead, on many of those answers, he took the bait from Harris and turned the entire conversation into an airing of grievances, of talking about bizarre things like migrants eating pets, as Eva pointed out, something, of course, that we know is false and has been debunked. There was some frustration around that. Now, I did talk to some people as well who acknowledge Republicans, acknowledge that he fell for the goading that Harris led him down. And remember, this was a key thing in my conversations with senior Trump advisors leading up to last night that they had advised Donald Trump on. This was the key concern. They said even more than the substance on the issues, they were concerned about Donald Trump's tone and his temperament and going off onto these different tyrants, really, about random things that didn't relate to his own messaging. And that's kind of what we saw last night. It appears that they were not successful in that. However,
by the way, this is like what I mean, I'm sorry for inflicting so much CNN on all of you today, but like this really is the way that they talk about politics, right? Just tone, temperament, and tirades. It's just like no substance at all. Like, has anybody that we've watched had a single point where they were like, Kamala Harris's policy on housing really seemed to move the needle in my mind, because a lot of, 80 million Americans are looking to purchase a home within the next 4 years. And her policy would, make it easier for people at the bottom of the property ladder to be able to climb up that first rung. And I think that really is going to make a difference in places like Arizona and Nevada, and even some states that are, more blue or red, and in purple states. I think it getting people $25,000 for a down payment is a big deal in Pittsburgh. There's never, not that I think that is true. I'm just saying, hypothetically, you would think that there would be one single person out of the dozen we've watched to make any single point relating to policy, but not one, not a one.
Claim that they
it's really
continue to make,
incredible.
and Donald Trump made this morning, is that the moderators
Is there
were
one thing I
biased.
should do in Philly? I don't know. Have you ever been to Philly before? Personally, if you're a history guy like me, I would recommend to do all the touristy shit. You know, that's just me.
Against Donald Trump, that it was a 3-on-1 debate, although I'd argue, no, we know that often when you're attacking the refs, you're often on the losing side. Sarah, John?
That is a good point. Elena Shreen, Eva McKen, thank you both so much, live from the city of brotherly love.
All right, chat. I'm curious. What are the Germans saying?
US Vice President Kamala Harris and former President Donald Trump have squared off in their only planned debate of this year's presidential campaign. The two candidates clashed on a host of issues, including economy, race and immigration. Both accused each other of lying, with Harris...
Oh, the AFD? The AFD is, like, rising.
Questioning Trump's fitness for office. We'll go to Washington in a moment, but first, here's Donald Trump attacking Kamala Harris by repeating an unproved allegation about irregular immigrants.
In Springfield, they're eating the dogs, the people that came in. They're eating the cats. They're eating the pets of the people that live there.
The first click on foreign media, and they're talking about substance better than all the reactions we watch on MSNBC and CNN. Amazing.
And this is what's happening in our country, and it's a shame.
Now, Donald Trump was also asked if he had any regrets over his role in the Capitol riot on January 6 in 2021. Trump did not answer that question. Here's Vice President Kamala Harris on the threat she believes Trump poses to American democracy.
Donald Trump was fired by 81 million people. So let's be clear about that. And
the fact that he got owned so much by her little pre-planned baits is so funny.
Really, he is having a very difficult time processing that. But we cannot afford to have a president of the United States who attempts, as he did.
Did you guys hear there's a conspiracy theory that Kamala Harris's earring is actually an earpiece? This is how you know the right wing is in shambles. There's this big conspiracy that her earring is actually an earpiece and she was being given all the lines. Honestly, my reaction is twofold. The first is... and the second one is, even if that was the case, that's called planning ahead. That's called being good at it, being good at her job. Where's his earring? He could have had a bandage on his ear and then put the earpiece under the bandage. Why didn't he do it? I'm sorry. It's called being smart. They found a Kickstarter page of an earpiece that isn't even a real product. Oh no. Somebody find me the link. Somebody find me the link.
In the past, to upend the
I personally believe it is an earpiece. That's the side here. Yeah, red pill. Oh, this fucking rules. Looking at these earpieces that look like earrings, looks a lot like what cackling Kamala was wearing. What do you think, Alex Jones? 37,000 likes. Yeah. Oh my God. It's so good. I believe this is real, but I also believe that she's just called being smart. Sorry, Trump. She did it, and she beat you. All right. This is her earring. $800 in sterling silver? No, dude. You can't be serious. Sterling silver for $800? You can't be real. Tiffany, you're out of pocket with this one. You're out of pocket with this one. Those look gold. Is there a gold one? And then it didn't pop up on the search. Everybody's search is shit.
Voters in a free and fair election.
For more on that debate, we're joined now by special correspondent Aya Ibrahim in Washington, D.C. Aya, after such a big build-up to this moment, I wonder what stands out most to you when you look back on this debate now?
Yeah, this lady has white eyes. These are some white eyes.
A very wide-ranging debate. It covered topics ranging from abortion to immigration, the economy, and foreign policy. But what was striking to me is how relatively thin this entire debate was on actual details of that policy. And I think that is valid for both candidates. I mean, when they talked about the issue of, the conflict between Israel and the Palestinians and the current war in Gaza, all of the points that we heard, there was really nothing new there, and there wasn't really any more detail about how this conflict could end when it came to the debate or the discussion around the economy between the two presidential hopefuls. Both sort of reiterated or repeated statements they had made in the past, again, without going into a lot of detail into what their policies would look like and what they would concretely do for the American people. And that's because as has become sort of a habit in these debates, it was very personal and very confrontational, and both candidates were, in their own way, really focused on discrediting their opponents. So I think that is a big takeaway from that debate, just how thin it was on actual details of policy, Anthony.
And for a lot of people, Aya, that's what makes a clear winner hard to define here. So I guess a better question might be, which candidate hit their marks with more force and consistency during this debate?
I think when it comes to the vice president, when it comes to Kamala Harris, there was a lot at stake at this debate. There was, of course, the debate between the former Democratic candidate, the current president, Joe Biden, which was largely seen as a disaster for the Democrats and was, many analysts say, was what ushered in, the sequence of events that eventually led to Kamala Harris being the Democratic candidate now. And when we compare the performance of Joe Biden with the performance of Kamala Harris, of course, she came off as much more assertive, very, very coherent, and she was able to rattle Donald Trump in many ways, her opponent. She was able to sort of get him off script to go into these.
Cool how they mention a Cornel West and Jill's candidacy, not a democracy. I mean, are they going to be on the ballot? New Wisconsin poll that dropped today, but yeah, it was from September 5th, so this is from last week.
Angry monologues by bringing up, his rallies and suggesting that people get bored at these rallies and have to leave. And so she was able to successfully sort of rattle her opponent. Another, sort of sign that perhaps she came out on top in this debate is that Kamala Harris faces an interesting dilemma. She's trying to pitch herself as the candidate for change on the one hand. At the same time, she is part of the current administration. And that's a weakness that, former President Trump alluded to at times, but as a result of the fact that he was sort of distracted by Kamala Harris, was not able to, I think, push through as strongly as he could have, because it is indeed a weakness of hers, how to pitch herself as a candidate for change and renewal, while at the same time actually being part of the current system that she wants to change.
One more before we go, Aya. Do you get the feeling from there in 2024, how much influence does a debate like this still have over voters?
Only Republicans and Republican 2 on the ballot from now on? I mean, yeah. I mean, there was a short window of opportunity. We got 2 bites at the apple, 2016 and 2020, to push the Democratic Party in a social democratic direction, and we failed. Now, there's a variety of reasons for why we failed. Maybe it was impossible. Maybe it wasn't impossible. I don't know. The jury's going to be out on that one forever, okay? But this is the wages of Joe Biden winning. It wasn't just that the Democratic, socialist candidate didn't win. We didn't get a social liberal. We got the most conservative candidate in the primary, Joe Biden. So yeah, the Democratic Party went to the right. That's what happens when you lose.
It's very, very difficult to say. All of the, most polls between the two candidates before the debate tonight were very close. A lot of them well within the margin of error. And now we've had this debate now. And according to a CNN flash poll that was conducted after the debate, Kamala Harris came on top with 63% of respondents saying that she was the winner. But this is not really an indication for what will happen in November. It's unclear if there will be a...
I think Donald Trump could run again. Why not? Why not? Even if Donald Trump loses, why can't he run again? Run again. He'll be the same age Biden is, basically, a little bit older than Biden is now. Why not? Run again. Run it back. Until he's actually defeated in a Republican primary, I don't think he's done. And why would he be?
Second debate, the Harris campaign has said that they would like to have a second debate, and Trump on Fox News has sort of already indicated that he...
Let's be real. If Kamala came out for a weapons embargo, it's a lock. But if Kamala doesn't come out for one, then the threat from Bibi will escalate to a swing to Trump. I mean, I personally think that I agree with that. I think that if Kamala Harris breaks with Joe Biden, that would be a very risky move, right? That would be a risky move because we don't know how the media is going to interpret that. We don't, obviously AIPAC would go to war with Kamala. The Israeli lobby would go to war with Kamala. But you have to remember that the Israeli lobby in America is an arm of the Israeli government, not of Israel or even the Israeli public opinion. Now, Israeli public opinion is fascistic. But even Israelis want a ceasefire for the Gazan hostages to be released, or the Israeli hostages held at Gaza to be like they don't want hostages to keep dying. Now, they don't give a shit about Gazans. They don't give a shit about Palestinians. They're perfectly willing to live in an apartheid regime. They're perfectly willing to oppress Palestinians, the Israeli people. But the government that's in power in Israel is to the right of what even Israelis want. But the Israeli lobby in America is an arm of the Israeli government. It's an arm of the Israeli intelligence services. It's an arm of the Israeli diplomatic corps. So, obviously the Israeli lobbyists and the Israeli lobby in America is a foreign, interference in our politics. And what are they going to do? I mean, the moment she breaks with them, they're probably going to go to war with her because it's an existential threat to Israel. If the Democrats become anti-Israel, Israel is finished as an entity. Israel can only continue to exist as it is as long as it's bipartisan. The moment it becomes a partisan issue is the moment that Israel is going to die out. That's the reality. All right? If she makes that move, it would be a risky move because, they're going to go nuclear on her ass. That being said, I think publicly breaking with Biden isn't even necessary. This is the thing that I think a lot of people, obviously she always has the right to publicly break with Biden. I think it would be smart to publicly break with Biden. I would say at the end of when all the dust settles, that's a winning move. It takes political courage. It's a big fight. I think she wins at the end of it. But she doesn't even have to do that. Walk into the White House. Tell Biden to take the bullet. You're 80. You're going out. You're fucking done. Have Biden be the one who takes the bullet. And this is what's crazy to me. This is what I don't understand. How is it the Kamala Harris campaign is allowing themselves to be maneuvered by Benjamin Netanyahu and Donald Trump into an October surprise? What if they launch a bunch of attacks on Iran? What if they invade Iran? What if they do an airstrike and try to assassinate the Ayatollah? Who God knows what lunatic shit Netanyahu's going to try to do. Netanyahu tries to pull us into a war with Iran 2 weeks before the election. This is the thing that doesn't compute for me, is that it has been the Israeli lobby's goal since 2002 to make America invade Iran. And right now, Joe Biden is putting us in the position for that disaster to happen. And Iran is not Iraq. Iran is a real country.
He sees that as a sign of weakness and that he would consider it maybe if it was on a more fair network, according to him. And also, there's a lot that could happen between now and November. Just think about the amount of events that have happened just in the past month in between July and August, including the attempted assassination on Donald Trump's life and also the change of candidates. So a lot could happen. And so it's very, very difficult from where we're standing right now after that one debate to be able to say who exactly is going to be the next president of the United States.
DW's A. Ibrahim in Washington, D.C. Thank you so much. All right, for more DW's Michelle Stockman joins me now in the studio. Good to see you, Michelle. With such a big build-up, the only debate so far.
Like Iran has already demonstrated they will never fight back. Do you think that would stop Israel? Number one. And number two, no, that's not what they've proved. They've proved that they're intelligent and they don't allow themselves to be put into a position of escalatory spirals that would threaten their own power. They don't take the bait. They don't fight Israel on Israel's terms. Seems like the Iranian regime is pretty adept at maintaining power. Even if I don't support them because they're a right-wing formation, seems like they're able and they won. I mean, they won the war in Iraq. Like, who do you think has the most influence in Iraq now? It's Iran.
Back on and take away.
Well, I took away that I didn't myself really feel like either Harris or Trump came out as the winner. I kind of felt like it was an even match. Now, my opinion differs from what I saw from two different publications. Liberal publication Washington Post had polled a bunch of swing state voters. Most of them said that they thought Harris had won the debate. Also, I looked at Fox News. They had polled a bunch of voters who also thought that Harris had won the debate, that she came out on top. However, there were columnists that had commented saying, well, Trump really is kind of a 3-to-1 event with Trump, with the moderators really pushing him. But, you know, both of them came out to show that they're presidential. I think both of them did manage to do that. It matters, though, what...
Liberal commentator, I'm here to keep my job so I don't say anything of value. I'm a liberal commentator. I just say blather until you ask me another question because I just like being on TV and my job is to just keep my job on TV. I'm a liberal commentator.
Issues really resonated with the swing state voters who were watching as to who they believe won the debate.
Right. So a couple of things on the to-do list, you might say, for the Harris campaign was to try and get under the skin of Donald Trump and draw out what they think is his
Try to get under the skin.
Yeah, so I think Harris was very effective in doing that. She talked about the crowd size of his rallies, kind of mocked him for that.
A favorite.
She also talked about how foreign leaders laugh at him. She said that members of his own administration say he's a threat to democracy and he should not be re-elected. And this definitely got under his skin.
All right, Chad, I'm sorry, but we need to do this. Tomorrow we would be